Welcome everyone, it's Elliot here, back for another video talking about some Blu-rays. Today I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm going to be talking about some 4K Blu-rays, the old UHD variety. This is something that I haven't talked about on the channel much. I recently spoke about some films that I wanted to come to the Criterion collection, and in that video I mentioned Phantom Thread, the Paul Thomas Anderson film, which I do own on a 4K Blu-ray disc, and that prompted some people, particularly my friend Jambo Shango. He wanted to hear me talk about some 4K titles on this channel. So Jambo, if you're watching, this one's for you, and for anyone else there who is interested in hearing about some of my 4K titles. Now I'm going to put a bit of a twist on this because it's not just 4K Blu-ray titles. This is in fact my 4K Steelbook Blu-ray collection. So these are all of the titles that I've amassed in Steelbook format that are 4K discs. So before I get into showing you all of my goodies, if you're new here, my name's Elliot. I love Blu-rays. I love collecting films, talking about all of the films I love and giving recommendations. So if you're into that kind of stuff, do consider subscribing and liking this video. Get involved with the community that we're building here as well. Because I say this on every video now, but we really do have a great bunch of people getting involved in this channel and giving their film recommendations in the comments and, just making the whole experience much better. It's a really good group of people we've got here. On the whole, I haven't really had any negative people. So if you want to get involved in that community, by all means, subscribe and get commenting, because I'd love to hear what films you particularly love. With that out of the way, let's get this show on the road. And I'm going to kick it off by saying that these are films that I genuinely love. Now in the past, a lot of Blu-rays that I've bought have been blind buys. So they're films that I haven't seen before and that I'm taking a risk on. With these 4K Steelbooks, I decided to make a conscious choice to only buy films that I've seen and films that I love. So all of these films hold a great place in my heart. I really do love these films. I made this choice for a few reasons because I'm running out of space. 4K Steelbooks are really expensive, so I can't just be buying them willy-nilly. And, I just wanted to curate this, good collection of films that I really love. So I hope you enjoy these titles that I'm going to show you. Let's begin with the film that is the oldest out of these 4K Steelbooks. This film has been around for a very long time. Everyone knows this film. If you've not, you've got something very wrong with you. It's The Wizard of Oz. I'm going to try and not get the light to reflect off these, because obviously Steelbooks, being metallic, they really do reflect the light, and yeah, sometimes you can't make it out. I don't need to say much about The Wizard of Oz. I'm not going to tell you what it's about or why it's brilliant. I'm going to talk about this Steelbook. I love this design. Dorothy Among the Flowers. It really is a great design. In person, you probably get a much greater idea of what this is, but it's really shiny. It's like that on the back as well. I've run out of my Steelbook protective slips. I usually have like a plastic case that goes on these, so I need to be careful with the fingerprints, collectors' first world problems. Completely love this film. Absolutely magical film. Really inventive as well with its use of colour and, switching from black and white to colour. Just a tremendous film. Such a no-brainer for a Steelbook, and I think that this is still available. I bought this from Zavvi, so I think if you go on zavvi.com or .co.uk, you can still pick this up. So definitely one to have if you're into your 4K Steelbooks. This next one, it's still factory sealed in its shrink wrap. Not because I'm planning on selling it or anything, it's just because I've not got around to watching it. Most of my Blu-rays I keep shrink wrapped until I actually watch them, just for the protection. This I ended up ordering from France because it was released on a 4K Steelbook in the UK, but I completely missed it before it sold out. And I managed to get a pretty good deal getting it from Amazon in France. The film is Alien. Like I mentioned, this is one of my favourite films. All of these films are favourites of mine. Incredible film. Honestly, like one of the best horror films, one of the best sci-fi films. It's the old thing of you can capture what Alien is by saying it's Jaws in space. Not much more to know really beyond that. This is a really interesting looking Steelbook as well. Like I said, it's from France, so it's got the French on the J card, but for all intents and purposes, it's exactly like the UK Steelbook. It's English language on the Steelbook, it's not in French. Yeah, so I am going to open this one day. I promise I am, I'm not selling it. But Alien, absolutely love Alien. And when I saw they released this, and I missed out on it the first time, I had to pick it up. So there you go. This next one is another Steelbook that I had to get from France because I stupidly passed up on it when it came out on the UK. It is Predator, the original Predator, not the remake, by the great John McTiernan, starring, of course, Arnie. This is obviously a genre classic, and admittedly, I hadn't seen this film up until a few years ago when I went to see it in the cinema with some of my friends. And I loved it. I loved it because the action was great. I found it hilarious because everyone was laughing at the infinite amount of quotes that are in this film. I've watched it since and I love this film so much. This is pure escapism. Pure escapism. And John McTiernan made some of the greatest action films of all time. You know, between Predator and Die Hard, you know, what more can you ask for? This is my Predator 4K Steelbook. Next up, I've got a film from my namesakes. It's by the Coen brothers. It's The Big Lebowski, one of my favourite films of all time. This is pure comedic nihilism. It's a film that it has a plot. It sets up a plot early on in the film, and then it just rambles and just goes off on tangents. And by the end of the film, the plot just isn't important. You forget what they were even, searching for at the start. You forget what the plot was because you're just so engrossed in the characters and the environment and what they get up to. Again, like Predator, infinitely quotable. Such a great performance from Jeff Bridges as well. Iconic. And John Goodman and Steve Buscemi and John Turturro. Everyone in this film is just amazing. Philip Seymour Hoffman, Julianne Moore, just everyone's in this film. So many actors I love. I could talk about this film for days. I could watch it on repeat forever. I really like this design as well. Obviously, bowling is a big theme in the film. It's a recurring imagery of the bowling alley. Obviously, there's the famous trippy scene of all the bowling imagery and stuff. So yeah, Big Lebowski, 4K Steelbook, absolutely essential. Next up, I have 4 titles by the great John Carpenter. Now, these films, again, these are all sealed. Now, I do have these on other 4K versions. I have the 4K box set releases by Studio Canal, but I had to get these Steelbooks because there was a great price for these, again, on the French Amazon. That's a tip for anyone, by the way. If you're into collecting 4K Steelbooks, check out the French Amazon, the Italian Amazon, and the German Amazon, because often Steelbooks that sell out here in the UK, you can pick them up still available on the European Amazons. And that's what I did for this. I got the whole box set of these 4 Steelbooks for €50, I think, which is crazy because these were retailing at £30 each here in the UK. The Steelbooks are exactly the same. All that's different is the packaging, which you can just take off anyway. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. Prince of Darkness. I love the artwork on all of these as well. The artwork is amazing. Escape from New York, or as they call it in France, apparently, New York 1997. Again, love the design. I've got They Live, or Invasion Los Angeles, as they call it over in France. And The Fog. I love all of these films. 4 classics from John Carpenter. I only wish they'd done more of these, but I don't think Studio Canal had the licenses for the rest. It would be great to have an entire John Carpenter collection in these Steelbooks, but that's never going to happen, sadly. These next 2 are my most recent 4K Steelbook pickups. First one, Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. I love this film. Really exciting, thrilling film. Great use of sound design, great use of time. The idea of having a ticking clock going throughout the film. The way the sound and the soundtrack is used to create suspense is incredible. Really interesting use of chronology as well. How it follows different characters at different times. Really does help build up the suspense. Just all around great filmmaking. Whether you love Christopher Nolan or hate him, because I know, strangely enough, Christopher Nolan does divide people very much. I think he's a great filmmaker. And I think you can enjoy Christopher Nolan films and you can still enjoy all of the other world cinema films and all the great classics of world cinema. You don't have to pick one or the other. Dunkirk, 4K Steelbook, love it. This one again is a double dip, as they call it. 2001: A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick. One of the greatest films ever made. I do own this on another 4K release, so God knows why I keep buying these, but I do. I'm a real sucker. One of the greatest films ever made. There really isn't much I can say about this. I had to own the Steelbook, and I managed to get it at a pretty good price. So yeah, 2001: A Space Odyssey. These last three Steelbooks are all modern films that came out in the last year or two. To be honest, all three of these films I wasn't expecting to love as much as I did, but here I am, I own the 4K Steelbooks. The first of these being First Man. Got it in one of my protective cases, so it's probably a bit glary. There you go. Absolutely love this Steelbook and the design of it. Like the blackness of space. And then there's Neil Armstrong. Good old Ryan Gosling himself. First Man is a tremendous film. Completely unlike Damien Chazelle's previous films, Whiplash and La La Land. A great depiction of a true story. Really did pack a lot of emotion in. I think in years to come, this will be one of Damien Chazelle's films that people will look back on and go, why didn't we pay attention to this at the time? You know, it was totally looked over during award season. You know, this could have won so many awards. It could have been up for so many awards, but just completely overlooked. So yeah, First Man, I love it, and I really do love this Steelbook. My second to last Steelbook is Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4 is such an enjoyable film. A really heartwarming film, like the rest of the Toy Story films. This is inching up in the rankings of Toy Story films for me. I'm not going to reveal my Toy Story rankings here because they're quite controversial. Great animation as well. Like Pixar, it's wizardry. It's like, how do they do it? Their story design as well, and the dialogue and the character design it's just all so strong and so well developed. I love these films. I love the back of this as well. You got Ducky and Bunny and Forky and Duke Kaboom. Great Steelbook. They do also do Toy Story 1, 2 and 3 Steelbooks for 4K, but they don't match the design of this. They're in a different design. So I do wonder if this will get another design later in life. I love this Steelbook and I love this film. Last but certainly not least, this is a superhero film, which I don't think I've talked about many superhero films on this channel before, but I believe this is the greatest superhero film, the greatest comic book film for sure. The film is Into the Spiderverse. This film blew me away actually, and I've seen it a few times now. It feels so genuinely like a comic book. It feels like you're reading a comic book as you watch this. And then towards the end when it starts revealing more of the spider characters, it feels like something that's taken just from the pages of a comic book, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, yet it still packs messages in there. Very entertaining, great music as well, great voice acting, great animation, all of this. One of the greatest animated films of the last few years as well. Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse. I love this Steelbook and it's going to be in my collection forever. So there you have it, just a quick little video about my 4K Steelbooks. I'm going to talk about more of my 4K films later down the line, but for now, I hope you enjoyed this, seeing some of the films that I love and seeing the different Steelbook designs. Hopefully you'll see some of these and want to go and pick them up yourself. You never know. But I love all of these and I think they are great. Well worth owning in my collection anyway. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be back with more videos on Blu-rays, the Criterion Collection, 4K Blu-rays, Steelbooks, etc. So get subscribed to the channel, like and comment, and I will see you very soon.